this morning. Now, don't get all negative on me. So just this is a positive thing, okay? It's serious, but it's positive. It's okay. Some of you started frowning immediately. Get over that. Rebuke that spirit of frown upon your face. Look over. If that person next to you is frowning, just point at them real big, and so we can know who they are. All right. Oh my. What was that old Irish prayer? Let me see if I can get it. I'll try to get it. You know, because my memory's failing. You know. Oh Lord, bless those who bless me. Curse those who curse me. And while you're at it, twist their ankles so I'll know them by their limp. So if I see anybody limping today, all right. Oh my. I better get serious. We got places to go here today. I want to talk to you about a controlled spirit. I don't know if you've noticed over the past weeks and months and even years, we have seen something happen that is disturbing, in that we see people that have risen to pinnacles of success and blessing and put in places of prominence only to fall, and falls in such a dramatic fashion that everybody sees it. You see people that have risen to great heights in the business community and what would seem like what would be the very place to invest. And of course, you know, you think of Enron. What seemed to be such a success fall to nothing. Madoff. You see other ministers that have fallen. And you know, I don't want to just dwell on all of that. You see politicians that today, every day, it seems like you find out another chapter in the sordid tale of their life. And it has to break God's heart as they walk away in shame and as their families bow their heads. Over these past weeks, we've been talking about, and without calling it a series, I call it my Conquering series or my Conqueror series. And the very first one was we were connected to God by faith. Last week we talked about communion. If you want to be a conqueror, I believe that you've got to be connected to God by faith. You've got to commune with God. But I want to talk to you about a controlled spirit, having the Holy Spirit control your spirit. There is something that happens. Has anyone ever, you've gone to sleep and when you wake up in the morning, you're anxious about something? Have you ever fought, you know, and you feel like you've forgotten something, or you just feel that anxious spirit within you? Has anybody know what I'm talking about? All right. I want to talk to you about that spirit. I believe that some people live with that every day of their life. I want to talk to you about having a spirit-controlled life, having a Holy Spirit-controlled life, that your spirit is controlled by His Spirit. Go with me, if you will, to the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 28. You say, why is this so important? Because I believe that when our spirits are out of control, that we can be an example of ruin. We can see God blessing, but yet our lives fall away in shambles, all because our spirits were not in sync with His Spirit. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 28. Proverbs 25:28, it says this: he that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. NIV says it this way: like a city whose walls are broken down is a man who lacks self-control. I've driven through parts of our city that have been boarded up, that once had glory days. I've driven across, and if anybody has ever, you've driven across and through some of the neighborhoods, even in St. Louis, and you've seen what used to be such beautiful buildings, now boarded up and in shambles. A picture of what happens when our spirits are out of control. A picture, if you will. Now, go with me, if you will, and if you'll look at your outline there, I want to talk to you about just a few items today. Is this an admonition? Is this an admonition, or is this a rebuke? An admonition or a rebuke? Which is it? You see, I believe that we can see both here. I believe that he meant this to be an admonition. But many times it becomes a rebuke to our hearts and our spirits. You see, the book of Proverbs is filled with wisdom. It's filled with very practical living. If you want to know how to live a good life, read the book of Proverbs. 31 chapters, read one proverb every day. And I guarantee you it will change your life if you will apply the principles that are in it. You see, Solomon was credited with much of this teaching, and because of that, he put within it the wisdom that God had imparted to him. He imparted wisdom from God and into Solomon, and then Solomon to his son. And here we are all benefactors of that very truths and the truths that he has given. The important things, and he shows the importance, and he reinforces the importance of living a life controlled and a controlled spirit within us. In this case, an admonition to have our spirits under control. The reason being is this: those whose spirits are out of control, Proverbs likens to a city with broken down walls. Those who have broken down walls are vulnerable to any enemy. Now, it's not like today where we have a police force and in the day that Solomon is writing, he's writing that those walls were the protection. Those walls are what kept the enemy outside. When you had broken down walls, you were easy prey for any enemy that would come along. Anything that came along could attack you, take you, rob you, steal, rob and plunder your entire being and everything that you've worked for. And that's exactly what takes place when our spirits become out of control. The book of James, chapter 3, says it this way: where envying and strife is, there's confusion and every evil work. In other words, everything, that confusion, that instability, that disorder, that commotion, when there is no order in our lives, when there is no order in our spirits, there is turmoil, there is trouble, and we are easy victims, easy preys, if you will. The second thing is this: it's a city without walls. No, that's not what it says. It says it's not a city without walls. It's a city whose walls have been broken down. In other words, somewhere along the line, it had walls. Sometimes there was a control. There was something there that protected them, but now it had been broken down. Now it had been compromised. Now it had been destroyed, and there hadn't been any rebuilding, reinforcement. There was nothing that put back in place the very garrisons that would keep the enemy at bay. Nothing. No repair, no reinforcement. Instead, there was a lack of care. There was a lack of concern. It's a rebuke to any who have allowed their spirits to be out of control. You see, there's enemies that lurk. You say, Mark, we don't have, the spears and the sword today. I know we don't have the spears and sword. We've got something much worse. Without firing a shot, the enemy can destroy a life, can take the very family that God gave you, can take the health, take the strength of your life without even firing a shot, without us many times even realizing what happened. What kind of enemies am I talking about? I'm talking about the enemies of anger that boil over within our hearts, that lash out, and the very ones that we love